All right, all right, all right. Welcome everybody back to the podcast, the Cavern-Cast, the Dank Swank Cast, whatever this series is going to be called. This is our second episode. This is Dank Swank. This is Mr. G and Mr. J.
What up?
Yeah, we're still struggling to get to what would the word be to acquire, to experience, to indulge in next gen. We're still sort of waiting days after release to get one. Yeah.
We're having our first world problems with the new next gen consoles.
Yeah, we are, and it's just all right. Little story time, minor story time. So I was telling last time I was talking about how GameStop, the manager there, was sort of very hushed about, it's like we're going to be open. We're not sure when we're going to be open or how many we're going to have. And then it's like he opened super early and they were already spoken for before all of the people, almost before everybody was in line had a chance to get one. And then launch day, same deal. They only had like 6 that were available. Actually, no, it was less than that. I'm mixing it up. They had 6 available for the pre-order. For the launch day on November 10th,
Wow.
it was horrible. They had 2. They had 2 total, and there were like a dozen people lined out waiting before. So 10 of those people left empty-handed. Absolutely horrible.
Jesus.
I think there was only one for the PlayStation 1 too. Yeah.
Classic GameStop.
Classic GameStop. So
Please change.
yeah, exactly. And it's like the people who work there, for the most part, everybody who works there, I really like, except the manager. Except the manager. I'm kind of about him because some of the things he's done, like, because I was asking him, well, listen, I missed launch day. So when do you guys think you might be getting some more? And he mentioned, I think this was a couple of days ago. This is probably like the 14th or something. He was like, well, we're actually expecting a shipment coming in of a few of them. And it's like, he was very vague about details. It's like check at 9 p.m. and then check at midnight. And if it's not in by then, check 10 a.m. I did all of those on the dot, was on for like 5 to 10 minutes each, just refreshing, hoping to get one of either the Xbox Series X or the PlayStation 5. And neither of them showed up for purchasing. It wasn't even where I like got this close to getting it and like at the last minute when I was putting my credit card details in, like it got snagged out of my hands. It's like I didn't even get that far. So I'm still waiting. I'm talking to my local Target. They're telling me that they get new shipments of stuff every morning at like 11 a.m. and it's between like 11 and noon that they have it into their system. And it's like the best way to do it is to use it through their app to like try to order it if they happen to get 1 or 2 of them. Because if I'm hoping to just get into the store as soon as possible to get it, those examples are almost certainly already spoken for, assuming they even have it. So it's is shit show the right term for this? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I would say so. It's quite the shit show. Can you really blame Sony or like Microsoft for what's happening with the scarcity? Like, we're in the middle of a pandemic. I would think,
no,
supply.
I couldn't.
I read an article saying like, at this rate, they're not like the supply is not going to be able to catch up to the demand until at least like June of next year.
Oh my
apparently.
God.
Yeah, so it's gonna be tough for the next 6 months to try to get any of the consoles, really, just because
Oh my gosh.
supply is so like scarce right now.
So limited, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, do you think if I go up to Phil Spencer and like if I offer to like blow him, he'll give me one? Do you think he'll manage to
I don't know, man.
make one appear out of thin air?
Either that or like offer your COVID vaccine to him or something, and he'll probably spot you a Series X.
Yeah, Hideo Kojima, I know it's hard for him to get weed in Japan, so maybe I act as his weed dealer and he gives me his, which he no doubt got.
Oh my God.
As part of the PlayStation team. I'm sure they just gave him one, so maybe he'll give me one.
Oh yeah.
I mean, he can, it's like worst case, he can still play Death Stranding on the PlayStation 4, so,
Oh yeah.
I assume that Hideo Kojima just plays through all his games on a regular basis.
Oh yeah.
He seems like the sort of person to do that, to indulge in his own,
he's probably
own
like
creations.
He's probably like the only person that comprises the freaking QA department in at at his studio. He's like the one QA tester.
Yeah, it's like, oh no, the hiding in the box mechanic, it's not quite conspicuous enough. Can you make it so it's more obvious that there's a person running underneath the box?
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great. It's like, no, this female character isn't nearly as exposed or questionable as she should be. She's not brain damaged. She doesn't have as much psychological damage as we would want.
Oh my god, yeah.
Anyway, I'm going very left field to the topic matter. I do want to mention the how you're saying, yeah, we can't blame like supply and demand. There's only so many people in these uncertain times registered your trademark. There are only so many people that can work on constructing a lot of these consoles, which are made out of really advanced stuff and probably do take a lot of effort to make. Even as a mass-produced consumer item, it probably does take a lot to make them. So I wouldn't doubt that there's an issue with that. I can blame them though for the ways in which they've released it, where it's like just sort of anything goes. It's like if you happen to be on the website at just the right time and you don't get, like, so to speak, sniped by a bot that's like designed to effectively buy out products the second they go live.
Oh yeah.
Then yeah, you got it. It's like, I don't know. I guess it bums me out because there's a lot of classism I feel to it. It's like it's a status symbol more than anything, and
oh yeah,
a lot of people grifting people too. Like well, I don't know if you've seen. I went onto eBay, and I don't know, maybe in the YouTube version of this, when this gets uploaded, we'll post the image, the screen capture I got. But I went on, and they were doing like selling an Xbox Series X for 10 times the sticker price, $5,000. Yeah, it's like, all right, well, I could use this. Yeah, it's like, well, here's my rent for like the season, or like, let me sell my car real quick so I can buy this matte black cube that plays games, whatnot. Let
me donate my left kidney, to pay for like half of that amount.
Yeah, it's just it's ridiculous. Yeah, I mean, for real though, it's ridiculous. It's it's this weird black market. And actually, Jim Sterling, his last episode was, and he's a fairly big person. He gets hundreds of thousands of views on his videos and whatnot, and he's a big figure that people talk about in the gaming industry. His lawsuit with Digital Homicide did the rounds, and a lot of people know him through that. But he just had an episode recently where he was talking about, it's like, even I am struggling to get this stupid thing. It's like he's having trouble getting either of them, and just talking about how difficult it is, and how like it's almost akin to like when people were hoarding toilet paper and at the beginning of the pandemic. It's like you have people who have walls of these consoles just lining their living rooms, and it's like, come and get it, $1,500 a pop.
God.
And it's kind of disgusting.
Oh yeah.
I don't know, man. It's like, and a lot of people will be accusing. It's like, you just wish you could do that. It's like, no, that's evil. I don't want to do that.
No.
Deprive some person who just wants to play Assassin's Creed Valhalla in all of its next-gen Viking glory. Do I want to deprive that person of that? I mean, no, but I don't know. At the same time, considering how Valhalla is, maybe I do. I don't know.
Actually, I heard it's doing pretty well, though. Valhalla.
Oh, yeah, it's actually, it is doing really well financially.
Yeah.
Actually, I heard, at least in the United Kingdom, it's outperforming Call of Duty Cold War.
Oh, damn.
This will be the first time, actually, that a Call of Duty game did not premiere at number 1 in terms of sales. Assassin's Creed took the number 1 spot from it, which is kind of amazing. I don't know if it's, like, part of me can't help but feel like that it might have something to do with the politics of it, and the fact that, the game came out just after Trump lost, unless you're one of those QAnon types who knows the real truth and how all those, the cabal is really, they're just harvesting adrenochrome, and that's why Trump lost somehow, or whatever the conspiracy theory is this week. But
Republicans be on suicide watch right now.
Yeah, exactly. Regarding all the games that have come out, and what little sort of contact, what tenuous grasp we have on understanding of it, of all these games that are coming out for quote-unquote next gen, Starting with like Dirt 5. I hear it is a lot of fun, although it doesn't quite have that next gen shine that people really like. Assassin's Creed Valhalla, it seems to be, it's kind of playing it safe. Like, it's taking some tentative steps into experimenting with like the raid system and stuff. And, but for the most part, it's sort of like, it's following along with Origin and Odyssey, where it's like, okay, Assassin's Creed, we're kind of an RPG now. There's like a skill tree. You can pick what gender your protagonist is, and all the rest of that. Although, curiously, the skill tree, you can change it on the fly. Like,
nice.
Unlike in a game like, say, Fallout 3 or something, where if you update a skill, like you need to know almost, or like, say, System Shock or something, or System Shock 2, where it's like you need to be really careful. Like, this is a permanent thing. There's a weight to it. Apparently in Assassin's Creed Valhalla, you can just change what you have as a skill tree on the fly. So it's almost like equipping a different weapon to a slot, except it's like +2 for stealth or something, which I think's really interesting. And I do question, it's kind of got that, it's that play it your way sort of mentality, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like, player choice. And it's like, I'm not knocking player choice, but it's like, that's sort of what they claim it as. And it's just kind of like, you can game it very easily. You can game the system,
Oh, yeah.
as opposed to actually playing through it. It's like, you can go up, it's like, okay, this is the stealth mission. Time to equip my skill talent, my stealth talent now, sort of thing. This is my dual wielding axe portion of the program, so. Watch Dogs, Legion, people have been talking about, it's like permadeath is the way to go. There's a way you can turn it off. Like, apparently turning it on is the way to go for the full experience, where it's really like, there's, it's sort of like I was talking with Assassin's Creed. It's like, it's more weighty to have it where there's a permanence to it. Although apparently there have also been issues, though, where people have been complaining because of the fact that instead of having it where missions, like it's sort of designed missions from the get, where it's sort of procedurally generated in order for you to be able to interact with everybody and sort of be able to convince people to join with your hacker group. Like, it's more procedurally generated, which means that there's some repetition in there. It can get a little stale after a while, though they do say it takes a little bit to get there. But yeah, I mean, as long as you can, if you're a fan of Ubisoft games, and if you are, if you're trying to ignore, if you're trying to cast aside in the mind all the, abuse allegations and stuff they've been facing.
Oh, God.
Who knows? I'm not trying.
Oh, sorry.
No, you go. I've been talking.
I was going to say, who knows? Maybe they were deserving of that fake swatting incident that they had last Friday. Did you hear about that?
Oh, they got swatted?
Yeah, they got swatted at.
I did not know that.
Ubisoft Montreal.
Oh wow!
They got fucking swatted, and like people thought it was like a legit like hostage situation, where they had to like evacuate like the entire building. They were all on the roof, and like the cops were just like all like surrounding the entire area around the studio, and yeah, it just turned out to be like a hoax.
That's ridiculous.
Yes.
Oh, well, thank God Yves Chaumot's okay. Thank God that happy.
Yeah.
That enabler, thank God he's good to go. Anyway, not to get political again. I just, and I'm not trying to guilt anybody. It's like, if you like Assassin's Creed and you like Vikings, it's like, of course, it's like, it's like you can like, it's in the same thing as like In-N-Out or like anything else. It's like, yeah, the meat industry is awful, but it's like, I can't fault you for liking cheeseburgers. I love cheeseburgers. I'm not going to stop necessarily eating them. It's like, who am I to judge? It's just,
Right.
I wasn't a big fan of, I played a little bit of Watch Dogs and Watch Dogs 2, and I don't know, the gameplay I wasn't such a huge fan of, and same with Assassin's Creed. I don't know, it's mostly down to the controller scheme,
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know. Also, there was that, like, everybody, like, once the hood came out, it was super sick. It's like anything that's cool, like The Matrix. It's like the fan base. There's always a cringy fan base, like a bunch of people with the trench coats after The Matrix, and a bunch of people with the hoods pretending they got wrist blades and stuff for Assassin's Creed. I don't know. I guess I got turned off by the fan base. That's just me, though. I'm trying to think. There was one, Call of Duty Cold War. It's about what we expected, apparently. Uh, just in terms of gameplay and stuff. And we played a little bit of it. And if you're looking at our channel, we do have a video where we talk a little bit about our experience with the beta, and how it feels a lot like just sort of like more of the same, sort of slightly watered down version of Modern Warfare combat, etc.
Yep.
Yeah. Apparently the story does try to at least offer, it's sort of like previous Black Ops entries where they try to mix it up a little bit with a little more player agency in how you complete missions. And
Nice.
Almost, not to say it's sort of like making eye contact with LA Noire, where you can almost like, you don't know who the person is you're supposed to get, and you have to sort of try to do some detective work to figure it out and see if you got the right one in the campaign.
Oh wow.
There's a hub zone, sort of like there was in Infinite Warfare, where it's like you can walk around, there are little secrets and stuff you can discover, and some of the secrets you discover actually can help you in a mission. So it's a little more, there's a little more intricacy to it than, say, like your standard, like, just jump into the campaign and get shuffled down this tube by this, British commander for 4 hours or however long the campaign happens to be, depending on the game. So it's a little more agency and a little more choice in exactly how you go about it, going loud versus not, and I mean, the subject matter is interesting, even if it does have a bit of a, neoliberal sort of libertarian slant to it. But anyway,
at the end of the day, it's just your typical Call of Duty, except, it just happens to have, characters of Ronald Reagan, that's been reanimated from the dead to appeal to all the alt-right wingers and whatnot.
Yeah. It's how they're coping at the moment.
Basically, it's just like it's just their form of therapy right now. It's like, hold me, Ronald Reagan senpai or something. I don't know.
Yeah, this is our denialism. It's like,
Yeah.
Anyway, but so there's that.
Yeah.
Miles Morales, the first Spider-Man game ever where you can experience the exaggerated swagger of a black teen. Thank you, GameSpot, for.
Oh yeah. Wait, is that literally what?
That's what they.
Said?
I think it was GameSpot that said that. Yeah, the exaggerated swagger of a young black teen, which is exactly how I want to feel in this day and age.
Hashtag BLM. I mean, what?
Yeah, exactly. This is white people out there. This is how you're going to make up for all of the wrongs of Western society. Just play as Miles Morales in the new Spider-Man.
Yeah.
I joke a lot, but I do hear it is actually genuinely fun. Like, even if it was just a port of the just like a reskin of the old game, it is apparently really, really good and really enjoyable. And there is some variation in terms of his abilities, and apparently there's like a few fewer abilities now that you can play with as him. Like, it's actually slightly more limited, like, which gives more weight to like what you pick for like what you improve on and like progress in terms of his his Spider-Man abilities. And a lot of people just like how we're mentioning how the winter color palette and all the reflective materials really highlight ray tracing and just the amazing graphical leap of next gen. So
I saw some footage of Miles Morales running. Well, it has two different modes. It has performance mode and like I forgot the name of it.
Mode.
The 4K, like.
Oh yeah, that's right. I'm sorry.
The beautiful mode or whatever it is. I don't know. I had a weird name, but what's weird is that it like on the highest graphical settings, it only runs at 30 frames per second. So.
Yeah, and that's been a thing. Like,
I don't know if that means that like the PS5 isn't as powerful or capable of handling 4K 60 FPS after all, or I don't know. There's just something that with like the open world and the amount of ray tracing they have to do for all the buildings in New York. Maybe
I would guess it's because of the game itself. Like, maybe it's the specific, just how big and wide and open it is, and how many different like in terms of light bouncing. Like, there's a million different things that it's bouncing off of at a million different like distances, like from one another. So that might be part of it.
Yeah, probably.
But I mean, I would personally prefer the performance mode, and that's actually something that I do like that PlayStation gives the option for that.
Oh yeah.
for choosing it at the very least, because it's like if you don't have a 4K monitor, or at the very least if you've got one but and it'll like up-res or whatever it'll do, I prefer that to having it where it's to
Oh
being
yeah.
stuck at just it's better than it was last generation, where certain games like Destiny 2, it's like, yeah, it's 4K, but it runs at 30. And it's like, that's literally the opposite of what you should do for a first-person shooter. like,
Exactly.
like that's the worst decision. Like, Bungie, you're supposed to know what you're doing with this.
Remind me
But,
of Destiny when they launched. It was only 30 frames per second, like the very
yeah,
first Destiny.
yeah, it is nice, though, that they're giving the option. And
Oh yeah.
it's sort of, that seems like a running theme with the PlayStation exclusives, because the few that we have, which it is nice, though, that PlayStation, there are a few options straight out of the gate, which, admittedly, it's slim pickings in terms of games for next gen right now.
Yeah.
And, regardless of which console you get, but at the very least, there are a handful, a small handful of very nice exclusives for PlayStation that really do make it, at least for the moment, for a brief period of time, it might be the console to get.
Oh, yeah.
Unless you're really into backwards compatibility, which I personally am. Like, the Xbox is the one that I definitely am looking for over the PlayStation. But
Oh yeah, for sure.
but that's, I'm probably in a minority. I know a lot of people want something. It's like, well, I'm getting a next-gen console. I want a next-gen game, like something made specific with this in mind. So it's, with that in mind, it's really nice to see, like, Dark Souls, or Demon Souls,
Yeah, yeah.
excuse me,
Demon
the
Souls. It
remake
looks
of that.
really good.
It looks amazing. I've
Yeah.
just seen some footage of it, and just hearing about the various improvements they've made, like very small, minute improvements, not just visually, but in terms of gameplay. Like, before, you were limited in terms of like dodge rolling from the boss that you're fighting, like in only 4 directions. Now you can do it diagonally. You can do it
Oh,
like
nice.
a northwest leap or a southeast sort of like
Yeah.
roll in order to dodge people in better ways. It actually, subtle though it is, it adds so much to the gameplay according to the people who have played it. Apparently, items, you're not limited to the amount of items you have in your sack. Like, you can just have it teleported to like a safe spot now,
Oh, nice.
so you aren't like over encumbered, which is nice, and you're not as limited. You don't have to go all the way to that little hub zone from before. I apologize. I'm not
The
huge
bonfire?
into the Dark Souls.
Oh no,
No, no,
that's
no.
Dark
It's
Souls.
like, yeah, it's like a central hub, though, that you go to in order to transport between the different levels or the different
Oh
areas
yeah.
of the world. I apologize for not knowing the name. I must admit, I'm not a huge fan of these games. I haven't had a chance to really play them. This might
We,
be the thing that gets me into them, though,
oh
to be
yeah.
honest.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, it looks really good. What was I gonna say? Yeah, I think just graphically, it looks like a completely different game. It looks like a new, like basically like a new IP almost. That's
Yeah,
how
it's
good
almost
it
like,
is as a remake.
yeah, it's almost like a whole console generation went by or something before they.
Yeah.
It's no, it does. Like, you look at it's a very much a night and day difference, but it somehow
Mhm.
manages to maintain that aesthetic, that greasy, sort of like cold, decrepit, medieval, sort
Oh
of
yeah.
atmosphere to it that I personally really like aesthetically, even though I've never had a chance to really play it.
Mhm.
To see it with where all the textures, like, where they're all very high quality, as opposed to some being sort of mediocre and others being just blurry.
Mhm.
That's one area where Souls games have really struggled. Like,
Oh
in the
yeah.
360 generation, was just like, graphically, it was just really inconsistent. So to see this remake, that it really is a graphical highlight, and it's another game, like we were mentioning, how it has a variation. It has a performance mode and a graphical fidelity mode, so you can choose either
Oh nice.
a 4K resolution, like that targets 30, or a dynamic resolution like 1080p to like 1440p or whatever, or like, an upres, sort of like a 4K that
Uh
goes for
huh.
60.
Oh nice.
And in 60 frames per second, though, like, I mean, that's got to be the way to play if you're a diehard Souls fan, I feel like.
Uh, is it though? Like I feel like weren't most games in the Dark Souls series weren't they like 30 frames per second? Or have
Well,
they
I
always
think
been
it,
like
like,
60?
that's the thing. On console, they've been at 30,
Oh yeah, yeah, right.
up until recently, and actually, that transitions into something I wanted to talk about, because although there's a 60 frames per second mode, for Demon Souls, and if you playing at the very least on Xbox Series X, and I'm pretty sure PlayStation as well, there's a 60 frames per second mode for the for Dark Souls 3, the port of that to the next gen consoles. There is not one for Bloodborne. It's still at 30 on next gen machines.
Yeah, people were kind of upset about that.
Yeah, and it's not that's the sad thing. Like, it's a console seller, and similarly, another console seller on the Microsoft end, Forza Horizon 3, a game which we've talked about, and if you're interested, we got a good video on that talking about how great it is, retroactively looking back at it in 2020. You guys should check it out. Needless plug. But yeah, Forza Horizon 3, apparently, it's just going to be, as of the moment anyway, it's just a port too. It's just the same 4K. It's 4K, but it's locked at 30. So, which is a major bummer because both games have been shown that they're capable of running at a locked 60.
Oh yeah.
Like, the tragic that, like, for the From Software people, well, not for the, but like there was somebody who managed to, and Digital Foundry, they have an episode where they put out recently talking about it, how there was somebody managed to mod it and like uncap the frame rate, and he's hitting between 55 and 60 frames per second. And he basically goes into detail on how he did it and like how it impacts gameplay, and the footage is amazing to see.
Oh yeah.
If you guys get the chance just to see all those Lovecraftian sort of mid 1800s sort of like horrors, those Victorian, with all the top hats and, all the weird like guts and everything flowing about. It's apparently really spectacular to see it with the 60 frames per second. So if some rando who admittedly probably has a lot of experience working with software and like basically bending it to his will, if he can do it, why can't like From Software along with Sony? Why isn't Sony giving From Software the green light to just like put in like a little update for next gen?
I don't know, man. Maybe they don't even know how to do it, or either that, or they're just waiting to release some sort of update or find some way to monetize that sort of like change to that sort of like frame rate. Like,
are they looking
toggle.
at Demon Souls that they're gonna have like Blue Team do it?
Oh, Blue Point.
Blue Point, yeah, thank you. They're gonna have Blue Point do it for them. They're looking for the time when they can do that. I hope not. That'd be evil for them to wait that long. Because I mean, the thing is, Bloodborne already looks beautiful. Well, disgusting, but like beautiful. You know what I mean? It already is graphically amazing, even on previous gen machines, the base level previous gen machines. So. I hope not. And in the Forza Horizon 3 thing, in a certain way, it's almost more tragic. Not to say that it's Forza Horizon 3 is a more important game. I realize that like Bloodborne has had a huge and very significant impact on bringing the Souls-like genre to a wider audience and making it so that more people are able to engage in it and just a little friendlier while still being really hard. It's a little more able to bring people in. But the reason I say it's more tragic for Forza Horizon 3 is because there isn't even like the 60 frames per second version of Forza Horizon 3. It's not because some guy, messed with the software or anything. It's not because some guy like decided in his spare time to try to make it 60 frames per second and shoehorn it in. The game was able to run at 60 frames per second from the start in 2016 on the PC. So that all makes it all the more tragic. It's like the version of the game that we want, it's like they could, in a certain way, just port it over. I mean, there might be a few intermediate steps, of course, because the software isn't exactly the same. It's not exactly, it's, even though there's a lot of Windows 10 like architecture in terms of both software and hardware for certain between the two. It's not like this massive undertaking in order to make it work. Like they could, but instead, as of the moment, it's just basically a port of the Xbox One X version, which is really heartbreaking because they have a 4K version out for Forza Horizon 4, which is even a little bit more graphically demanding. It's 4K with 60 frames per second, which... yeah, it's kind of a bummer. Yeah, it's a bummer that it's like they have that, but then again, there is the possibility that all this could change, and considering that there's certainly fan there's certainly a lot of fans out there wanting this for both games. I wouldn't doubt that they do that. I mean, hell, like you look at like Dark Souls 3, like I'm as far as I know, it was like 30 on previous gen machines, and now it's up to 60. So maybe they'll do the same for Bloodborne and for Forza Horizon 3. I mean, Playground Games have updated games that have since not been sellable by the company due to licensing. Like the first Forza Horizon, they bumped that up to 4K, and with the auto HDR and stuff, they've managed to update it for next gen, both for the Series X, and for the Xbox One X and for the Xbox Series X. So, it's possible they'll do a frame rate patch, hopefully. On the other end of the spectrum, though, Eurogamer recently put out a story about how the Warzone mode in Call of Duty Modern Warfare just got bumped up on next-gen machines to 120 frames per second.
Oh, shit.
This makes it, one of the first games, along with Dirt 5, to be capable of really maxing out, like if you have a 120 hertz TV, capable of really pushing it to the limit, which is kind of cool. The thing is, though, apparently it's only available, of the two consoles, it's only available on Xbox, which I found really weird in a way, because Call of Duty has sort of been more preferential to PlayStation through the last console generation.
They've been partnering up with PlayStation more for like exclusive launch stuff, right?
Yeah, like a lot of the like early access to things, and like Call of Duty games have had slightly higher resolution on PlayStation. I think not only just because the PlayStation 4 was slightly more, it was slightly beefier than the Xbox One, if we're honest, just in terms of technical specs. But also, you can't help but feel like it was also because, well, if you play on PlayStation, it's a little bit nicer, I don't know. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but yeah. But yeah, so I wonder, and actually the sort of on the top we're talking about with how it would be super easy for the PC version of, or like a variant on the PC version of Forza Horizon 3 at 60 frames per second to go onto the Series X. I'm thinking that might be the reason that Xbox has the increased frame rate on Warzone, because in terms of the software and just hardware, like architecturally speaking, it might be a lot easier to convert a PC version or like something similar to the PC version, which is already designed to push past 60 frames per second, for that PC master race to get on them. Because PlayStation, like, isn't their software and hardware, it's a little more circuitous, right? Like, it's a little harder to retrofit certain things, I would think.
I mean, with the PS3, of course, they added some really weird architecture that was super hard to work with in general, but I think they learned their lesson and they made it more accessible for PS4 onward. So I'm pretty sure, like, it is a little better now, but there probably is some proprietary stuff that's still keeping it from being able to convert like cross-platform games onto the PS5 like smoothly. I guess is just making sure it's just like ironing out all the bugs or the whatever inconsistencies there are with the frame rates or the whatever features would be hard to pull off on a PS5 system compared to like a Xbox piece, like an Xbox system that has it's that's derived from like a PC environment basically.
Yeah, no, I gotcha. What's kind of funny though is that they also didn't announce it. Like, it was only because other people discovered it that they it was only through somebody like looking through the settings and seeing like that there was now 120 frame per second mode.
Oh, shit.
That they were able to find. Like, Infinity Ward and Activision didn't actually formally announce it, so they just discovered it. That's how Eurogamer was talking about it. It's like, we just sort of found out about this by just looking in the settings. It's like, oh, that's curious. That wasn't there before. Like, no doubt after an update, I would assume, but like, still, it wasn't announced in the update, so. Very curious. I don't know. It's
bastards.
Like sneaky, and maybe that's why I'm thinking it might be a hardware thing as opposed to like some subtle like shift over. It's like, now Xbox is the way that we're gonna do this. I'm thinking they're sticking with PlayStation in a certain way, because they would announce it if it was like, well, Xbox has this, like they're trying to sort of skirt that under until they get the PlayStation version ready to go.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, that frame rate sounds spectacular, although I do wonder how the rest of the performance of the game, especially considering it's a multiplayer mode, how the rest of it kind of, if it struggles,
Oh yeah.
because getting that frame rate is no doubt, like even for the next gen devices that there are, I would think that'd be incredibly taxing.
Oh yeah.
On the hardware and stuff.
I would assume, unless they're using some sort of black magic to just kind of create a consistent, smooth experience.
Like it sort of smears from frame to frame, sort of thing, or
yeah, or maybe they're like, or just having an adaptive resolution just to make it a little less taxing on the hardware.
Yeah, that seems like what they'd probably do, because that's what they've been doing. It's like, it's not in terms of like, because we've seen in the past, in order to maintain frame rate, some companies, like I think it was for Halo Guardians, they had it where it's like, well, like the textures and stuff load in at different rates and like at different, like, in order to keep the frame rate as it is. But now it's just resolution. It seems like it's mostly just resolution that they're doing, which I think is probably the way to go, because I mean, unless you're sitting really close to the TV, like, are you really going to be able to tell the difference, like for all intents and purposes, between like a 4K and 2K monitor? Like, unless you're super close.
Well,
I say this as someone without. I say this as someone without it, so I don't. I'm just speculating. I'm gonna be playing my Xbox Series X on a 720p display.
Oh my god!
Woo!
Hey,
still technically HD.
At least you'll probably be able to run it at really high frame rates because it'll only be outputting a 720.
Yeah, that's true. I'm definitely going on performance mode for everything.
Oh yeah.
Well, once it comes out, depending on if there is a performance mode. I don't know. Is it bad that I just want to get the PlayStation 5 to play Bug Snacks?
Oh god.
It looks so silly because it's from the Octodad people. They're the ones who made it. So.
Oh yeah.
It looks fun. I mean, it's stupid. It's like I think the plot is that you're like one of these little Muppet creatures on an expedition with to discover new life, and all the life is like sentient food, and they all repeat their names like they're Pokemon.
Oh my god.
So like if one's like a strawberry, it says like strawberry or something.
Oh my god. Fucking Bug Snacks.
Yeah, and it's like you apparently it's got some puzzle elements too, which I find kind of interesting. It's like you have to catch them, sort of like Pokemon, but you have to like almost do like a Rube Goldberg sort of thing in order to get some of them. You have to really think with your head about what the best way is to try to capture these scientific specimens. So, I don't know. That's not a good one to end on, is it? Talking about Bug Snacks. I don't think, anyway.
Oh wait, are we ending already?
No, I don't know if we're ending. I've run out of stuff to say, to be honest.
I have one thing.
Okay.
Yeah, so I don't know if you heard, but did you hear about how in Kotaku's review for the PS5, how they basically went on a huge like SJW tirade about like it was basically rich shaming everyone that had a PS5. And they were
shaming people who had one?
Yeah, like shaming people who had one. So like, oh, y'all should be so lucky that you have a PS5 when there's people that have lost their jobs during this pandemic and are like, either homeless or like really struggling because
they try to do a Jim Sterling.
Yeah, basically.
I'm guessing without any of the nuance or like the profoundness. It was just like sort of crude and.
No. Let me actually read some excerpts from the review.
Yeah. Who was the one who published this, by the way?
Kotaku.
Kotaku. Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah, they're the ones to talk to you about being privileged. Kotaku. It's like IGN doing it almost.
Yeah.
You should feel lucky that you have this console that we also have.
Exactly.
All right. I'm sorry. Let's listen.
Okay. Right. Let me see. Where should I start? Okay, so this is towards the end. And so the reviewer talks about pretty much all the different features of the review. And then at some point it kind of shifts to like kind of talking about current events and like with the election and whatnot. Um, and then he basically says, "But I'd be remiss to ignore all the reasons not to be excited for the PlayStation 5. The world is still reeling under the weight of the COVID-19 pandemic. There are more Americans out of work right now than at any point in the country's history, with no relief in sight. Our system is an inherently evil institution that forces people to ration life-saving medications like insulin and choose suicide over suffering with untreated mental illness. As I'm writing this, it looks very likely that Joe Biden will be our next president. But it's clear that the worst people aren't going away just because a new old white man is sitting behind the Resolute desk. Well, at least not this old white man. Our government is fundamentally broken in a way that necessitates radical change rather than incremental electoralism. The harsh truth is that, for the reasons listed above and more, a lot of people simply won't be able to buy a PlayStation 5, regardless of supply. Or if they can, concerns over increasing austerity in the United States and the growing threat of widespread political violence supersede any enthusiasm about the console's SSD or how ray tracing makes reflections more realistic. That's not to say you can't be excited for these things. I certainly am, on some level. But there's an irrefutable level of privilege attached to the ability to simply tune out the world as it burns around you.
I mean,
oh my god.
I'm gonna defend this.
Wow, really?
No, but it's well, the tail end, the use of the word privilege, I can understand, like, people being a little, like, rolling the eyes at that, because that's a very sort of like SJ. But I mean, at the core of it, I mean, all this stuff is stuff that, I mean, I think you and I both agree with. It's like, it is kind of silly that, like, in a certain way that, like, these consoles have been, I mean, they are kind of distracting from, like, there are a lot of people who are struggling, like, to pay rent, and, you know, there are still a lot of people who are getting shot down by cops for little to no reason, and, you know, there is, you know, Joe Biden's not as bad as Trump, but, you know, I'm sure that he's got his own issues, you know, he's got his own skeletons in his closet that'll rear their ugly head once he's in, and,
oh yeah,
you know, he's already said that he thinks marijuana is a gateway drug, and how he's going to increase spending for, you know, both police departments and the military and whatnot, and, you know, he's still anti-Medicare for all, you know, so I can understand that. It's sort of like a Leonardo DiCaprio at the Oscars sort of thing, where it's like, you know, he's going up there and he's using it to talk about climate change or whatever. It's sort of, I get the fact that it's like, sort of like, well, people are going to see this, maybe this is a place to make an impact, and I get it. I just, some of the terminology, it's like, yeah, it does seem kind of shamey at the end. It's like, almost like, even though he says it's not, like, the verbiage feels that way, but the crux of it, it's like, I kind of do agree with a lot of it. I mean, I don't know.
I mean, I know, like, I kind of get what he was trying to go for. Like, he was just trying to redirect, well, not redirect, but, like, kind of put it all into perspective and sort of, like, see, like, having us see the bigger picture of the way things are right now with the world and the pandemic and the election and whatnot. But still, like, to kind of shoehorn that into this sort of review is kind of like, I don't know, like, it just
preachy.
Yeah, it's a little too preachy for my taste, and, like,
I get that.
I don't know. I just felt like it was kind of unnecessary, like, and it's kind of like, I don't know if it's a very inclusive, like, addition to the review, because it's kind of like calling out, like, American readers in a way. Like, it doesn't really like for example, like, he's talking about all these problems that us as Americans, like, face, like the fact that, you know, there's a lot of people out of work, that, you know, our healthcare system is crap and whatnot. But, like, I don't know, like, how the hell is, like, our Canadian readers, or like British readers or Australian readers supposed to like give, how are they supposed to give a fuck about that, you know? Or like, why?
So it's sort of like virtue signaling. It's sort of like,
yeah, exactly.
Almost like he's it's like he's bringing up a moral outrage that isn't really an issue where it is, where they're where they're writing about it.
Exactly.
You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
it,
It just
so
seems like
yeah.
they were bringing in a little bit too much subjectivity into this whole discussion about video game console, or like this
Is it
review, I
like a
guess.
virtue signaling thing, do you think? Like it's to make it look like it's to give it a little more like it's sort of like when for the IGN, I think it was IGN review of Grand Theft Auto 5, the woman who was doing the review was talking about how it's lascivious with women and like how maybe video games shouldn't be like that. And it's like I understand saying this and you're not wrong about saying this, but is this really the place to be saying it necessarily? Like
Yeah, I
isn't
mean,
this something sort of like Jim Sterling? He would have like a whole thought piece on it that's separate. That's like a half hour long, really going to depth about it. Like maybe that's like, and I would watch the heck out of that talking about Grand Theft Auto and how maybe, even though it's supposed to be a parody or whatnot, how maybe they use that as kind of a shield to like obfuscate some of the more questionable things they do, like if it's really necessary for them to do that. Like sort of the same thing with like, well, maybe a new console like this, it's really just sort of highlighting the issues that we've got, that we're just so distracted with this thing and people are struggling to even get it. Like maybe it's almost a metaphor for it, but to just sort of put it at the end of the interview, you wonder like what the intent behind it is. And
yeah, I don't know. Like, I mean, I guess I can see where you're coming from as well. Like, obviously, like he is raising concerns that obviously not everyone's gonna be getting this console, and I guess it kind of goes back to the whole scarcity thing.
God knows we aren't.
Yeah, we're not getting it. I'm not getting it. Screw that. Like,
I'm gonna try to get both of them at the very least, just so we can get content out there for people to watch. But
oh, okay, yeah.
I'm struggling with either of them. So
Yeah.
when we'll see when we get them. Who God
Yeah.
knows, but I'll
Yeah.
try.
Yeah. Also, I
You
kind of
know.
wanted to mention too that like he also kind of called out the fact that apparently, according to him, Sony and Microsoft chose a hell of a time to release their next generation video game consoles. Yeah, and he also says, I think the PS5 is a great machine, but it's tough to recommend when folks are literally fighting for their lives while residing in the richest country in the world. And I'm just like, I don't think either Sony or Microsoft were like, I don't think they were predicting that we'd be in a pandemic this year.
No,
So
and it's like by the time it was actually ready to be like, it was actually like a viable product, like that it was actually a functional like device, like not just in the rough mule or concept stage, but like by the time it was a real thing,
Yeah.
like that existed. I'm sure that this was like either this was before anything came to any of the degrees we were in. It was still at a time when like we were thinking at the very worst that it's like, well, we'll be in lockdown for a couple weeks and then it'll be over,
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Like, no, I get that. It's like, it's not like they did it on purpose, although
Yeah.
I wonder if they maybe would have had the power to like prolong it, like, because games get delayed all the time. God knows Cyberpunk's probably going to get delayed again.
Oh god, I hope not.
Based on its track record. What is this, the fourth or fifth delay? It's December 10th
Yeah.
as of the moment, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's like an end of the year sort of thing, but it might, who knows, they might decide at the last minute, oh, the eyebrow on this one Android character doesn't like flinch in quite the way we want to, so that's another 10 weeks that we got to put into this shit.
Oh god, yeah.
But so with that in mind, is it different for, I do wonder if it's different for consoles where it's like a much more solid, like if we say it's going to be released now, like it has to be, like they have to commit super early, and it's like, well, whatever happens.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, you're just hoping at least they just go ahead and release it, and then if there's still bugs, they'll just iron those out with the updates. Oh, I mean, at least for the last gen consoles,
Yeah,
I think
they'll do a Ubisoft with it.
Yeah. And they'll do an Assassin's Creed Unity with it or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, fun fact. Speaking of increased frame rates, apparently Assassin's Creed Unity runs at a locked 60 now on consoles, and it looks really, really good.
Oh, nice.
Apparently, it actually because the game apparently was shooting for more what would be considered like this generation. Apparently now it looks really, really good. Yeah. Digital Foundry did a video on that too.
Oh,
Another
nice.
plug for Digital Foundry, despite the fact they don't pay us to do this.
We
They
just
got really
admire.
good content, guys. We're jealous.
We just admire their work.
Yeah, from afar, with my hand down my pants. Allegedly. Anyway, but yeah.
So yeah, I guess that was everything I wanted to bring up with the PS5. Just that stupid Kotaku review, basically, like, yeah, like shaming us for shaming the people that have a PS5 and like checking their privilege.
Yeah, so the things we've learned today as we wait on bated breath for a next-gen console is check your privilege and always maintain the outrageous swagger of a young black teen.
Yes. Oh my god.
Thank you, gaming journalism. All right, so this has been us discussing our next gen struggles.
Yep.
We've been Dank Swank. If you've enjoyed if you somehow, for whatever reason, either through a massive brain injury or just through getting high or being delusional, managed to enjoy this nonsense, we've got a Patreon that we'd actually love for you to be able to donate to and become a patron to. What's great about it is we have, you can read in the little tiers, but depending on how much you're willing to give to us, that'll give you access to anything from content like this, along with other Let's Plays and stuff, between 5 days and a week early. You could also vote on the future content that we make and put out. So, yeah, just a couple little benefits there, and it also just helps us to make sure that we can, the more money we are able to get from you guys, the easier it's going to be for us to put more time into this. And hopefully at some point we'll be able to make this a full-time thing and be able to get a lot more content out to you and a lot better content out to you guys. We're gonna keep punching upward until then, though. We're gonna show all these PewDiePies and Mr. Beasts and whoever there is, what for.
Yeah.
Check out our Patreon. We would greatly appreciate you guys becoming a patron. Otherwise, though, we understand, it's tough out there. I mean, we've just been talking for a while about, struggles financially and such, so we understand if there are other more important things you probably need to spend your money on, but
Hey man,
with that in mind,
we're fighting for our lives, according to Kotaku.
we're fighting Kotaku. Listen to Kotaku. We are fighting for our lives.
Yes.
But seriously, if it is the sort of thing where we understand if you're there are other ways to support us. Subscribing to the channel and liking this video and ringing that bell are all wonderful ways of helping ensure that we can also sort of bump up our impact and get out more content at a faster rate and at a higher quality. And just to make sure that you guys will be able to get to see our content as soon as it comes out. So with that in mind, we'd like to thank you guys for watching. And thank you for joining us in the classiest cavern on the World Wide Web. We'll see you next time.